Protect yourself and your family from unexpected challenges. Consider accident-only income protection. Click the link in the description to find out more.
Boxing King Media in association with SaveMoreMoney.com, back in Ireland again, back-to-back fight weeks. You enjoyed your time in Ireland?
Yeah, love it. I mean, look, last week was unbelievable. I think everyone that was there felt like they really witnessed something special, and obviously up the road, a couple of hours in Belfast, another massive crowd this week, another brilliant card before we head stateside for a couple and then off to Saudi. So exciting times, and really exciting times for Irish boxing. I feel like in May this year, when Katie lost, everyone was like, well, that's the end. And obviously Mick Conor lost for the world title, and it was like, well, we're done. Now all of a sudden Katie wins, some good wins on the undercard, a massive night in Belfast, and Irish boxing's buzzing. And we love being here because the atmosphere is incredible, and it's one of the very few places I don't get booed.
You're probably right, actually. I've not heard them boo you yet. Do you understand, like, I've kind of been educating myself about the difference between Dublin and Belfast, and the different in, like, the political movements as well. I think you've got one fight on the card where you've got an Irishman in Tyrone McKenna fighting somebody who's classed as British in Lewis Crocker. Do you understand all the politics side of it?
Yeah, I do. It's definitely not something we think about when we're making fights, but it's something you have to gain knowledge about and something you have to respect as well. I think you talk about boxing in Belfast, you talk about boxing in Dublin. There was definitely a lot of fight fans that made the trip from Belfast last week to the Katie Taylor fight, and I'm sure vice versa this week as well. I talk about Irish boxing. We talk about the whole island, if you like, and the whole opportunities for the fighters. So it's really good to have massive headline acts from Dublin and from Belfast, because the atmosphere is brilliant, and they're very knowledgeable fight fans as well. I've done some incredible shows here where the atmosphere has been amazing. Ryan Burnett unifying the world titles, Carl Frampton against Kiko Martinez and other big fights. And as I said in the presser, I remember my old man doing shows at Ulster Hall, 900, 1,000 it holds, and I was, 13, 14. It's just always got that feeling that it's a fight city, and you'll see that on Saturday night.
3-4 big fights that could be classed as 50-50 fights. Which one do you think is going to catch fire the most?
I mean, look, McKenna against Crocker, for all the reasons you talked about, and because they've both sold huge amounts of tickets personally as well. But I like Kevin Ajarko against Troy Williamson, because I think it's time to find out. It's time to find out about Kevin Ajarko. We believe he's a great talent. But how good? Troy Williamson is the perfect person to ask those questions. If he's not the fighter that we think he is, he gets beat on Saturday. If he is, he looks sensational, and then he moves into big fights after that as well. So I love that fight. Even Sean McComb against Sam Maxwell, I love that fight. And Conlan Gill, I'm very fond of Jordan, and he's got absolutely nothing to lose on Saturday. I think the move up to 130 is going to really help them both, and I think the fight will be over inside 6 rounds.
We've seen you become more ruthless with your young fighters recently as well, where if they're not done well, you'll openly say it, and if it's a close decision. I think we saw it with Gary Cully the other week, where you said he was lucky to get it. I think Shabazz Massoudi said the same as well. When did you kind of switch that focus to, like, what, I'm just going to say as it is?
I think you just get older, become a little bit more honest as you get older. And look, I'm a promoter, so I've got to try and wear many different hats, but you all see what I see. Now, my opinion might not be the same as your opinion. But when I feel, and in the Reece Mould Gary Cully fight, I honestly think that could have been 6-4 either way. Do you know what I mean? It depends what you like. When the bell went, I was like that. Literally, anyone can win this by split. Shabazz Massoud, I thought, when the bell went there, I thought he might lose this, and he got the decision. When a fight's close, when it's a draw or when it's a split either way, the fight can go either way. Sometimes you see a scorecard, 98-92. Thought it was a really bad scorecard for Taylor Cameron. And 97-93 for Cully, 97-93 for Mould. How do you get the disparity? I know the styles are very different, but I don't think you help anybody by just lying effectively of your views of a fight, especially you don't help a fighter. And I say a lot of the time. When I went into Chantel Cameron's dressing room after the fight, I said, "You lost the fight." "Oh, well, I said, "You lost the fight. You know you lost the fight, really." And everybody knows when the scorecards were read out, you could see your faces. You knew you'd lost the fight. Just like Katie Taylor and her team knew they lost the fight the first time around. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you have to be as honest as you can, but don't forget, scoring's subjective as well. And I won't always agree with everybody because everybody sees a fight differently.
Has that affected any relationships with Team Cameron and potential rematches?
In time, I think at the moment, I guess I get the blame for everything. I think that when you travel to Dublin for a fight, you're always going to be up against it. Let's not forget, she won the first fight. She got the decision. Nothing, it was a 6-4, 7-3 fight last time, and it was the same this time, either way. And Katie got the decision. They talk about, obviously, Katie's holding. I thought she was very experienced in that respect. Should she have had a warning? Maybe. The knockdown, again, the feet were definitely tangled. Also, a punch sent her over. Those kind of things can go for or against you. Also, at the same time, you've got 4 completely random officials, international officials, that you get the opportunity to look at pre-fight, and if you have an issue with them, make a decision. So, Chantel, I haven't spoken to her since. I went back to see her straight after the fight, but she'd already gone. Spoke to Jamie, spoke to Nigel, and again, I feel like you've got to be honest in those situations. Before I went in the changing room, someone said to me, "Oh, I wouldn't go in there. I don't think you're flavour of the month." I'm like, "Fuck it. Don't be ridiculous. Go and front it out and be honest with people." That's what I said to Nigel and Jamie. They said, "Oh, she was holding too much." I said, "Probably. Experience, though." Do you know what I mean? It was a knockdown. Maybe. But you lost, didn't you? Let's be honest. It wasn't like it was a bad decision. And also, I made the point that if you're going to fight in Dublin against Katie Taylor, yeah, at times you are going to be up against it. But by the way, you've made huge money in the last 2 fights that you couldn't make if you weren't up against it, and that's something you have to take into consideration when you make decisions. Life-changing money, and if you want to make life-changing money again, perhaps there's an opportunity for a trilogy. But sometimes, we're not going back to Dublin, okay, then other options might be to fight in the UK, but obviously the money will be different. So, yeah, I just think honest conversations are always good.
Good stuff. And last couple of things I want to speak to you about. We saw the news break out yesterday with regards to the boxing board. Robert Smith went on to TalkSPORT and talk about it and explained, what he felt from his side. So I just want to get your reaction to that and your version of events.
Yeah, firstly, it was very nice of Robert Smith to go on to TalkSPORT to explain it without explaining it to us. It's, again, very strange. All we're after here is for Conor Benn to be treated the same as everybody else. You've seen other world champions in the past, very high-profile ones. No one's been treated like Conor Benn. So what is it about Conor Benn that makes you treat him so differently to others? That's something I'd love to know. But away from that, at the moment, there is no fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. I'm doing everything I can to make that fight, and we continue, and I hope that we can be in a position to announce that fight next week. But until we announce that fight, there's not too much to discuss in terms of what we're going to do and the strategy that we're going to imply. Following Robert's comments yesterday, they had huge legal implications that will be dealt with by Conor Benn and his team. My job is just to make the fight, and that's all I'm focused on at the moment.
In your opinion, what do you think the reasons are? You kind of alluded to him there, what makes him so different to other previous people. In your opinion, what do you think it is?
Of course, what we want to know from the board. What is it about Conor Benn that makes him get treated differently to? And I don't want to mention other people's names because then it's like you're targeting them, but they are. World champions that have failed tests and just been cleared to fight. And when I see comments like, and this is where they're going to have a big problem, when I see comments like he hasn't gone down the appropriate avenues, what the fuck are you talking about? He went to the WBC, who he was ordered to respond to. He was completely cleared by the WBC and reinstated in the rankings. Then he made the decision himself to go forward with the UCAD trial. He won the trial and his suspension was lifted. So those comments, you'll see more on that soon. So why is he being treated differently to others? You tell me.
The only last question I've got for you on that is a lot of people are going to be wondering, will you go down a different route in regards to different boards to officiate the fight? You've not made that decision yet?
No, until we make the fight, we won't make that decision. I will always, and I've said before, I will always, respect the British Boxing Board of Control until you get to a point where you feel people are being treated unfairly and there are agendas involved. If that's the case, we will have a decision to make, but there's no decision until the fight is signed, and I'm going to do everything I can to get that fight signed ASAP.
Any concerns on how the media and the people are going to kind of see this? Because obviously you'll have people backing what he's saying, people believing what you're saying.
I mean, look, within the boxing world, which is a tiny, tiny world, I can understand people have their opinions. Outside of that, no one cares. We still want to do what's right, but we also have to stand up for what we believe is right and make sure that our client, our friend, someone we believe in, is treated fairly. And when you've been through 2 cases, won them both and be cleared by 2 different organisations and been cleared back in July and boxed since and are not suspended and are actually cleared to fight, and you've got Robert Smith explaining himself on TALKSPORT rather than to Conor Benn or to us, if you can't see there's an agenda, then you're blind as a bat. So I can't say too much because the next couple of days are going to be really interesting. So watch this space, watch us go and sign Eubank against Benn with Calla, and Calla obviously is his own man as well. We'll see what happens.
Big drama show, Eddie. Thank you very much.
Have you ever been stranded on the side of a motorway with a broken down car? Like me, is that something that worries you? That's where motor breakdown insurance comes in. If your vehicle breaks down, a trained professional will be sent out to get you back on the road. Or if this is not possible within the specified time frame, to transport you to your home or to the nearest garage.